Welcome. My name is Mike McGuire. I am a professor of communications here at Marine Valley. Today I'm here with my students from my Composition 1 course, which is a course that not only introduces students to college-level writing, but also challenges them to think critically. This semester, my students have been focusing their writing and thinking on the aims of education. This subject is appropriate in that most students who have come to this class have been deeply immersed in institutionalized schooling for at least 12 of their young adult lives. They have grown up in school in large part. Indeed, most of us have. When we are drenched in the normalcy of shared experience, it is easy not to question it, not to examine it. And so this semester we have taken that as our charge, to direct our critical thinking in this direction of education. Towards that end, my students and I have used an approach called deliberative dialogue. Deliberative dialogue is a face-to-face method of interaction where small groups of diverse individuals come together to exchange and weigh ideas and opinions about a particular issue that they all care about. It is a form of guided discussion aimed at finding the best course of action. For this dialogue, we made use of an issue framework from the National Issues Forum, which had us ask the question, how should higher education help us create the society we want? With this project, I've really booted my students into the deep end here, asking them to contend with some of the big issues that plague higher education and our society overall. I've challenged them to articulate their ideal vision for our society and to think about the role education would play in creating it, to contend with the many obstacles that get in the way of such ideals, and to propose specific actions towards positive change. All of this through a few short weeks of research, writing, and dialogue. As much faith as I have in all of my students, I recognize that the expectations I have laid upon them here may have been somewhat unrealistic. I mean, to solve the issues that plague higher education today, that's asking a lot, don't you think? Is it asking a lot? Oh, yeah, okay, just checking. So we're not here today to get absolute answers to our problems. It would be unfair to expect this, but it would also be unfair to expect that these students have little more to share today than the product of a mere classroom exercise. One of the rules of the deliberative dialogue process is to listen for meaning, not flaws. Every person has value in the authentic point of view he or she brings to the conversation. While you might hear students struggling somewhat today with their understanding of complicated issues and their ideas for action, I challenge you all to listen not for flaws, but for meaning. Listen to these students. Listen for what they have to teach and what they have to learn. After these presentations, I hope we can enter into conversation together to continue learning from one another. All right. Well, without further ado then, let's move to our first group, okay? Sean and Ashley, to hear what they have to say. And we will take all of our questions and so forth after all of the presentations, okay?
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the big show. I'm Sean.
I'm Ashley.
And we're here to give some examples and let you guys know what we think could help us give everybody a fair opportunity at higher education, preferably interstate, but countrywide also. Higher education is a big part of growing up, having careers, and just being a better person all around. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Ashley and let her start us off.
All right. In America, everyone has the chance to be equal in one way or another. Opportunities and rights are granted to individuals when they live in America, but college education is not being made equal for everyone. Schools are making success in higher education harder to receive. Higher education is one of the most beneficial investments an individual can make. Not only is it hurting the people who cannot afford education, but the country as a whole. With the lack of education, Americans will not be able to take the opportunity to become more financially stable as well as well-rounded individuals. So now Sean's going to discuss the steps in which we can do as a school to make this more higher education and successful.
We came up with 3 pretty good ideas that we think, not in just particular for Moraine Valley, but countrywide, nationwide, that we can do as a country to help give the chance to people who feel like they can't get into school. And I think after talking a while with Ashley, I think one of the biggest problems we have is not necessarily the cost of tuition and everything like that, which that is a huge problem. But I think it's the lack of motivation today to motivate people to come to school, and so they can see the rewards that really come with this. Motivation is a really big factor. I think we need to do a little bit better of a job to get people into the schools and show them really what it's about and what can come out of this. There are 3 pretty decent ideas that I think we came up with, though, besides motivating students, especially coming out of high school, because we think that once you come out of high school, within the first year or 2, if you don't get enrolled in some sort of school, your lack of motivation is going to drop hugely, and it's going to take a lot more pushing to get you in. It took me 17 years after high school to come, but I made it, so I'm here. We got 3 pretty good ideas, though. One idea we came up with, which would lower the cost of tuition a little bit, would be to individualize plans per student. When you come into Moraine Valley, for instance, there's a bunch of different resources that they include into your tuition. Some of those resources not every student uses or every student doesn't want. For example, the gym is one of them, the fitness center. That's a very nice facility over there, in case nobody's ever been over there. But that is included in your tuition at some part. You do have to pay a little bit extra if you're a part-time student to go over there, but if you're a full-time student, it's free to you. So therefore, that is included in your tuition somewhere. There's other resources like the Writing Center, financial aid, which everybody needs financial aid, mostly, not everybody. But there's a Writing Center, there's a Tutoring Center. There's a bunch of different places that you can go to. And some students just never use that, and they are paying for it one way or another. So that's one idea, is to individualize student tuition. Another good idea we had would be to, and this goes a little bit, I put this more to the state, because sometimes I like to take pride in being an Illinois resident, and I feel that Illinois as a state does not do a very good job for any of their residents. I know they do help out their veterans pretty good, but besides that, not much. So I think they could do a better job, even the federal government, as in the interest rate right now for federal student loan is 4.66%. And that does vary from year to year. That changes. And I believe it's July 1st when they make the new term on what the interest rate will be for the following year. I think for people who are trying to go to school, or should I say we think, that I think that should be a no-interest loan. It is still a loan that needs to be paid back, but why would the government need to make money off of somebody going to school to try to better themselves, which in the end will make their United States a better country? So to me, I think a no-interest loan would be great. And the last idea we came up with, and this part had a little bit on my part from me and where I come from, the background I come from, is to help people more, such as veterans. Veterans have right now, they have a program where their tuition will be paid fully through the government if they decide to use it. And actually, they're making it to where they can pass it down to their family, their kids, and stuff like that if that veteran decides not to use it. So what we think would be good is to help. I know they have a disability program, but I think there's a lot of people out on the street today who are homeless, or they have disabilities, or if you go a little bit to myself, where I've suffered from the disease of alcoholic and addiction. I think a great thing they could be doing is helping those people out a little bit more, maybe even getting to some centers where there's treatment being provided, and offering an incentive for those people who are trying to better their lives to come to their university or their state college or their community college, and offer maybe a lower rate, offer a first semester free, something to get those people in the door so they can get a real feel for what the college experience is like and to help them better themselves, which of course, like I said before, in the long run will better our country. So from that, I'm going to go ahead and pass it back to Ashley.
All right. So Sean basically explained our 3 steps, but now we want to take the next steps as a country to explain what we could do. So we call America the land of the opportunities, but for many Americans, that is not the case because college degrees unlocks many doors for success. Although higher education is the key to success, everyone needs to do their part and take action to ensure that everyone has the ability to make equal opportunities for the rest of their society. Higher education continues to be the way for many people to live a more stable life. According to the article, Ensuring Higher Education Access for All and a New Deal for Equalizing Opportunity and Enabling Hopes and Dreams, Bob Racine says that over a lifetime, the gap in earnings between those with a high school diploma and those with a bachelor's degree or higher exceeds $1 million. Not only is the economic returns from higher education positive for an individual, but the nation and the region as a whole. This quote shows that higher education is not only good for an individual, but the society as a whole. As a society, we need to strive to be the best and succeed as one, but everyone needs to take their part in improving the fairness for higher education. In conclusion, everyone deserves a fair chance in receiving a higher education, but colleges need to fulfill their role in making that happen. When everyone is ensured a fair chance at earning a higher education, we will be a society of diversity whom all share the happiness and wealth that comes from higher education, which will set the differences aside to make our world a happier place.
Okay, so hi, I'm Ed Oshesky.
And I'm Jocelyn Zavala. And today we're going to talk about higher education and how we could make it a better place for students and teachers and everybody. Basically, higher education is a very big, serious situation. And we had so many problems with that. Not just that and other stuff too, but I think that schooling is more important since everybody wants a career in life. And what we're going to talk about today is many ways that we could make school easier for students and everybody else.
Okay, so I guess you're probably thinking, what is an ideal society then, if we think that this society isn't so well? We think an ideal society is one where college students aren't too stressed out and can focus on like one thing at a time. And so they can really learn the material that they're learning in class, so that they're better prepared for their future careers, and then in general, it'd make the society better. We think an ideal society starts with college students because they're the ones who are going to grow up and turn into adults, into the real world, and have the jobs and careers that will become like the leaders of the country. And next we're going to talk about book costs.
Book costs is, next to tuition, book costs is a major thing for me. When I just started school, I had to get books and stuff, but my teachers required it for the class. And when I went to the bookstore for Rain Valley, it was like $200 for just a statistics book, just because it was a hardcover. And to rent it, it was just like $175. And then for a used rental, it was about $75. And the thing is that why do we have to pay that much money just for a book that my teacher didn't even really use? She mostly used worksheets, and she just didn't even use the book at all. So I just spent about $175 for no reason when there's other websites as well that have it cheaper for about, like, Amazon is like $20, I believe, and then Chegg was like $75, I believe. And why does those websites have it cheaper when Moraine Valley should have it less expensive than that, since it's a school and it provides more books with that? And also, according to the NACS, National Association of College Stores, an average student spends about 655 textbooks just for one semester. And I think that's just absurd because we shouldn't really be spending that much money next to tuition, home necessities, car payments, home payments. And we have other issues in the world besides school. And adding to that with book costs is just insane.
And our next problem is I'm going to pose into a question. Are kids actually learning? So I've talked to many other college students, and they can all agree that they have taken classes where they didn't really learn the material or really understand what was going on in the class, but they still passed with an A. So it doesn't really make sense how you can have a class that no one understands, but everyone still passes with an A. So are they really learning the material, or what's going on there? And then another issue to bring up is that we feel that every class should be offered the same opportunities as other classes of the same subject. For example, is extra credit. Certain classes are offered extra credit where other classes are not offered extra credit. And we feel that if one class is offered extra credit, then every class should have the same extra credit assignments. And we also feel that there are classes that have different curriculum, even though it's the same subject. So it's like, why are they learning different things? It's the same subject. We think that every teacher should be teaching the same thing because it doesn't really make sense to have two different subjects, but yet you learn this and he learned something else. We should all be learning the same thing. And for a statistic, there's fewer than 3 in 10 employers think that recent college graduates are well prepared for applying knowledge and skills in a real-world setting, and that is by the Association of American Colleges and Universities. So we think that the college students aren't prepared for the real-world setting because of stuff like what I mentioned before. If no one's learned the same thing, how can we all be prepared for our futures? And next.
And a solution for eliminating book costs and stuff like that, just to make it easier for students, college students, and people who actually need help with paying for books and stuff like that, is teachers could actually use Blackboard. Blackboard's there for a reason. And why not use it just to put more assignments up? Because they just post it and say, do homework, worksheet number 2 or something like that. And I think that you might as well just upload the assignment there and the students could just work on a Word document, just send it. I think that would be a lot easier since technology is advancing nowadays. And they should do online literature, and that should be free for all students. I mean, they could charge students for some stuff. I mean, as long as it's not going to be like $200, I think that would be a much better solution than just not doing anything about it at all. And also there's there's also other ways that teachers could also talk to the students. They could use emailing, all that other stuff, and I think that would save a lot more time and a lot more paper, since we actually use a lot of paper just to make those books and everything else.
And then I'm going to offer you some solutions for if kids are actually learning or not. So I mentioned that there are classes that offer extra credit and some don't. We think if the extra credit wasn't offered so much, maybe the kids could actually learn the material, because we feel that some students may see, oh, well, I can get 30 extra credit points, so I really don't need to try that hard on these assignments, because if I fail them, I still pass with 100. So what's the difference? And another solution would be if Moraine Valley got rid of the teacher evaluation sheets that they give out, because we feel some teachers feel like they need to be liked by the students so that they get graded better or rated better on the sheets. So we think if the teachers didn't feel like they needed to be liked better, then they wouldn't be giving out extra credit, or maybe they would actually be grading the students the way they really should be graded, and not just on like charisma points maybe, or something like that. And then to conclude.
Okay, and that's all the costs and reasons and stuff that we think will make higher education better. And I hope that you guys understood that and got everything in there and answered all your questions. And thank you.
Takes a second. Don't hide behind the podium if you can avoid it. Better.
There you go.
All right.
Okay, we're good.
So I'm Alex.
I'm Daisy.
My name is Ethan Doe.
And I'm Abby.
So how would you describe a perfect world? No murder, no war, compassionate, caring, or stable. How long would it take you to say, I want to live in a society that knows how to survive? I don't want to be in debt for the rest of my life. I want a broader knowledge. I want to explore and learn. I want to be able to say that we can all work together, where no one is better than anybody because of the education that they've received. I want to live in a world where your education and my education don't come at the cost of the future generations and the chances they are given.
Now in society, many students focus on how much money they make at the end. Us as students should not worry about making money at the end, but having the education that we have now. We should open our eyes to see that our peers only see what we only see what we want to see at the end, like money. All we think about is money, money, money. We shouldn't make our education on money, even though it does cost a lot. We should strive to better and get all the knowledgeable things we have in our mind.
At an ideal college, students will be able to take any classes that they are interested in, and their advisors and counselors would encourage them to. But most colleges aren't like that. Most colleges want you to take classes geared around your major. Here at Moraine, you are required to take College 101, even though most students don't want to take it. And there are classes like ethics that most students don't know about, but if they did, they'd probably be really interested in taking them. If we want to have an ideal higher education, we need colleges to start encouraging students to take classes they're interested in and not just classes that are geared around their majors.
Today in America, there is a crisis, and it might be a crisis that lurks low-key. We don't really always see it all the time, but there is indeed a crisis with the direction that our students are taking in their lives. They might not know themselves completely when they enter the higher education system because they haven't been prepared well enough to deal with the sense of autonomy and the different choices that they face as they enter higher education. So in that sense, the higher education system needs to change for teachers because they need to have their classes based around getting the students more direction and giving them more choices with assignments, the way that they learn things, and the different choices that they have for the best way that they can learn. And they need to be given more autonomy from a younger age in that sense, so that when they enter higher education, they have an idea of the depth of their personality and the passions that they actually truly feel, instead of it just being, about money, because that, in the end, will create such a large crisis that our world is just becoming a place where people look at their own gains and getting money instead of the purpose that their job serves for the world and the deeper motivation behind what we might be living with our lives.
This thing on? Oh, it is on. Hey. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
You guys got it? All right. My name is Eleazar Gonzales, and these are my comrades.
I'm Brandon Dowles.
Brian Martinez.
All right, so now that we've got those introductions you probably won't remember in like 3 minutes out the way, I am going to be completely honest with you. You see, I want you guys to believe everything that I'm saying and that it's not just for a grade. Shout out to Mr. McGuire. So I have to keep things, as the kids say, 100 with you. I actually don't care about this. In 5 years, I will willingly move to Canada and leave what most people consider to be the greatest country in the world. Getting that out the way, I can present this, and you guys have to believe me because I don't know, Mr. McGuire, don't judge me. So I'm going to get a bit more personal with the problem than all of you have done such a good job presenting. Moraine Valley is a decent school by most school standards. You usually get what you pay for. The counselors are great, the teachers are great. Every employee here does their absolute best to go above and beyond their job description. Unfortunately, I'm not very social, but Brandon is. And Brandon has actually experienced an example of an employee going above and beyond. Go ahead, Brandon.
How you doing this afternoon? I would like to tell you guys about amazing woman, lunch lady, friend. Her name is Noreen, and she works in the U building. And let's just say that at first, when I came to Moraine, I was like Eli, quiet, to myself, eyes devoid of light. But the U building changed that. The staff, they were very welcoming. It wasn't just, oh, I'm just going to clean this window and just get out the way, Brandon. No, it was more like, hey, Brandon, how's your day going, you know? And believe it or not, that kind of made an impact. Like, just saying good morning can really lift someone's day, you know? And one of the biggest things Brandon loves is food. And this is where Lunch Lady Noreen comes in. I was thinking, hey, I'm just going to buy this pizza, get on with my day, right? I realized I didn't have enough money. Yeah, Brandon was going to starve. I thought my day was over. I was going to go to this class. I didn't think I was going to make it. But then Noreen, as the kids say, came in clutch. Okay? Noreen said, don't worry about it, darling. Okay? It's going to be all right. Just pay back some other day. Just go on, eat your lunch. Here, have another Snickers too or something. I was like, wow. This lady's great. So, me and Noreen, of course, became best friends after that. Now, you're probably wondering, why am I telling you this personal story? I'm telling you this story because not only is it her job to sell food and just be there, but she's happy to be there. You see Noreen, you're always going to see a smile on her face, guaranteed. And the smile can go a long way, whether it's just a, hey, how's it going, to it's going to be all right. So I just want to say thank you, Noreen, and I'm going to pass this on to my man Eli.
Thank you, Brandon. So is Moraine a perfect school by any standards? I'm going to answer that with a quote from Hamlet, Act 3, Scene 3, line 89. No. That's the whole quote. I don't know what you guys want from me. Occasionally, schools do have flaws. Take Brian, for example, during student orientation. Take it away, Brian.
How you doing, mates? As a student, I was able to observe some things one-on-one, like a first-person shooter game, like Call of Duty Black Ops 3, not advertising. But when I first arrived at Moraine Valley during orientation, I was quite excited about school. Oh, college, you know, coming out of high school, coming out of military high school. I was excited that, oh, I'm finally going to be free, do whatever I want, but also focus on school. So I was really excited about school. So when I arrived at Moraine Valley, they guide us through the orientation, and then it was time to a part that we had to choose our classes with the academic advisor. So when I arrived there was like 20 other students behind me, and I was just wondering, like how the staff was gonna greet me. I was nervous, you know. I'm not good at talking one-on-one with a person. So when I arrived there, the academic advisor, she was really friendly, really nice, greeted me and everything. I greeted her back and said, oh, hi, how you doing? Then there was slight sense of being rushed throughout choosing my classes. Like, oh, you're gonna take this, you're gonna take criminal justice, you're gonna take psychology, college 101. I was like, okay. So where does the why come from? Like, why do I need these classes for a major? What if later on I want to change my transfer to another university? Or what if I need to, switch my bachelor's and get an associate instead of getting a transfer degree? So it was just some questions, that I kept in mind while talking to my academic advisor. And it comes down to Moraine Valley. It's a really great quality school compared to other schools. But there was that particular meeting orientation kind of lowered my expectations of community college in Moraine Valley. But that was just one case that I experienced throughout my life as a Moraine Valley student. Now back to my man, Eli.
Thank you, Brian.
Welcome.
So, Moraine is a good school, but it is by no means a perfect school. And one problem that a lot of schools have that I feel Moraine doesn't really suffer from is the fact that it's more overpriced than a bag of chips is compared to 5 years ago. School loans are off the chart, and it is only because schools know that there's so many scholarships out there right now. But we wouldn't need those scholarships if there was a solution to this overpriced problem that doesn't really have to exist. One perfect example that would solve everything is to just cut military funding. I know that as a college student, everyone believes, oh, just take away funding from this, just take away funding from that. Yeah, a lot of people will look at me and say, you don't know what you're talking about. Those people are probably right, but I'm right about this. Because the military is the most well-funded military, the U.S. military speaking, compared to every other military in the world. China comes in second place with $121 billion, according to CPRI, which tracks the amount of budgets that countries use on their military. The United States is $618 billion. To put that into perspective, that is 618 times the amount of money that the Avengers made, and that featured 5 very attractive people. One thing we could do is to take away $100 billion away from the military. Frankly, I believe that we often fight in problems that admittedly aren't really our problem. If we took away $100 billion, we would be able to pay everyone's student loans, which according to USA Today is $45 million annually, twice over, several times actually. If we did it for 20 years, we would be able to pay off everybody's student loans, since student loans were a problem, which has amounted to $1.2 trillion. And that is a ridiculous amount of money that I really wish I had sometimes. The military would often argue with you that they are the only defense that the world provides. Well, more often than not, I believe that every war that has ever been fought could have been easily resolved through peace. And peace is achieved through scholars, and scholars are achieved through learning. School. College loans. If you're not drawing the link, I'm so sorry. I'm doing a terrible job today, obviously. And actually, the fact that he used $618 billion is an improvement, because last year we used $718 billion, and that's unnecessary, in my opinion. We could pay for everyone's student loans twice over, make schools much more improved. I don't really know what else people would want. We would still be the most well-funded military in the world and have scholars. If you don't think this plan would work, I will leave you with kind of a threat, depending on how you look at it. Sparta was the first most well-known military city-state ever, and that lasted 300 years. The United States is 200 years into its history. If we become a military country over time, we'll slowly die out We're 200 years and Sparta lasted 300. Our time is running up. I suggest that we become like Athens, who work towards creating more scholars and making more schools and educating. Thank you.
Do it.
Thank you guys. Hold on. You guys ready? Last but not least.
I'm Anna.
I'm Hannah.
My name is Sahar. Today we're coming together as a group and as a class to discuss a lot of issues that we are very passionate about and we care about because it affects us all. And we just want to talk about these issues and propose a couple of solutions that we have.
60% of students drop out because of the cost of tuition in America. College is really important and should be more affordable for everyone because everyone wants to have a better life, a better career, and to be able to provide for their families. So most of college students only have a minimum wage job to pay for all their loans, or if they're at community college, just to pay off the deadline. And that's really not enough money to get them through because they're living paycheck to paycheck. Over in Germany, they have a free tuition, and not only for just people who live in Germany, but also for Americans. So if you want, you can go over to Germany, and they will let you go to college for free. They started that tax build-up back in 2006, and now the schooling is free. However, they started almost 30 years ago trying to get all of their states to agree on this idea. And their government believes in higher education and wants their people to continue and do well in their life. So if we started to just have a little more tax input of just for education over years, it can build up, and like our kids' kids can maybe be going to school for free. However, for Americans, if they go through a 4-year university, the lowest university in America is about $20,000 per year, and that's not cost of room and board or books or any of their fees. And on average for community college, it's $3,000 to $5,000 a semester, not including any of the books.
I feel that you guys should care about your students because it's hard for students to pay. Tuition is a big impact on many students. Some aren't really eligible for FAFSA or scholarships. Mainly they're independent, and throughout the years, prices keep raising, and especially with books, students are going to have to take out student loans. But if they only have a minimum wage job, they're not going to be able to pay back those loans. Then they're going to go into debt, and throughout the United States, the debt is going to rise throughout students. I feel that the books are extremely expensive, and students mainly have to purchase them because throughout the years, professors are going to make their own edition, and it's required to have, but in that class, they don't even use them half as much. And then you just end up wasting the money of $200 on a book that you don't even use. And I feel that prices should definitely lower because or else the dropout rates are definitely going to increase throughout the years.
The issue that we have to solve here is making college more accessible for everyone. Greater access to college will address the skills gap that the U.S. faces today, and the skills gap does need to be addressed, and making college more accessible is what would help solve this issue. So a couple of ways that the federal government can help solve this big issue altogether is, first of all, making financial aid more flexible, and just like having that more available for more people to help pay for these high prices if they don't want to lower the prices in general. So just like making that more flexible and just making that more accessible for kids can help them pay off these prices that are too high. But if they wanted to actually lower the price, which is probably the better option to solve this issue, I think they really need to work on how they budget and how they spend money. And I think that the government, and just like not just the federal government, but state governments too, and even county governments, don't really know how to spend their money and don't know how to budget well. And I think that they end up spending the bulk of their money that they're given on things that aren't not necessarily not as important, but should also be like on par with other things, such as college. But you're probably wondering, how can we as citizens and as society solve this problem? And I think the easiest way is to do your research and to vote. Probably the easiest thing you can do. Vote for the people who stand up for college, who have smart plans for the future, will know how to budget, and it's the easiest thing you can do. All you have to do is be 18, which we all are, and just go out and vote. And then another thing you can do is not just vote, but also attend board meetings, and that's an easy thing to do too. All you need to do is have a voice, do your research, and if you want to stand up and share your solutions, share your opinions, it's really easy to do. And you can help, and you think that just because you're one person or you're just a couple of people, you can't do anything, but everyone's voice matters, and everyone can stand up and just share their own opinion, and all together, if we all do that, I think we can make a great impact and eventually solve these big issues.
Wow. Nicely done, everybody. I was impressed with the enthusiasm that you brought your ideas forward to the group. So here's the fun part, though, okay? Even though, we've been talking as a familiar audience here, right? We've been talking throughout this semester about many of these issues in some form or another. And you've been writing about them and researching. We haven't had a chance to really hear one another's complete presentation until today. So I'm hoping that maybe you have some questions for one another, some comments that you would like to make, so that we can continue a conversation for just a little while, because that's really what this is about. It's about a forum to discuss some of these things that we just heard about. So would anybody like to get us started with a question or a comment on some of what you've heard today? I've got all these mics I could hand around, so awesome. It's on.
All right, just two quick comments. The one most important one that I really liked that I heard today was the one about making your voice heard and voting. For some reason, that didn't even click in my head ever. And that is a very good point, because especially with the presidential candidates that are out there right now, and electing a new chief for our great nation, I think that's a very good idea that I heard today. And I never really put much thought into that. And the second thing I heard that I really do like, and I never was aware of, was the budget for our defense system, should I say. And that is a very good point that I heard, and I think we're spending way too much money. If those numbers are accurate, that is way too much money that we're spending. And I hate to go this route, but we can't even stop some ISIS people. So where's all that money going? So I think that would be a really good point, is to take just $100 billion out of that and go ahead and throw it to some school guys like us and help us out a little bit. That's all I got.
All right. You got some applause on that one. That's good. Response to what Sean had to say, or other comments to keep the conversation going? Yes, Eleazar's got something to say.
I have a question to my own group because I messed up. So the question for you, Eleazar, is what particular bill do you have in mind that would help get funding away from the military and more to society? Well, that's a good question, Eleazar, because I forgot to mention it, so I'm going to tell you. Senate Bill 2182, presented by the Congress in October 4th, 2014, proposed the idea of cutting military spending and using it to other resources for civilian life. It's not in particular for college, but we as college students are primarily civilians, and it would also look good to be able to pay for veterans. That's it. I just wanted to answer my own question. 2,182.
Good comment. We're going to keep talking. We can clap after each person. That's fine, but that might get a little tedious. But it's good to share the love. We have another comment. Yes. I wanted to say just quickly in the interim here that voting, super important. But before you can vote, you need to register. Make sure you're registered to vote, okay?
Oh, God, that was loud. Okay. So I just wanted to say to all the groups, everyone, well done. Your voice was heard, and hopefully, to our camera lady, this will be a good source for future generations at Moraine Valley for future cyclones. And just want to say, good job, everybody. All right. Go you.
All right. Yes. So I have a question, if there aren't comments popping up just now. At least a couple of you, and it's not surprising, you talked about issues of cost, right, and issues of readiness. That's come up quite a bit throughout these presentations. Are we, who's ready for college? Are enough people ready? So, the question that I want to ask, or the point I want to raise, and we could talk about perhaps, is, each year we see this data that comes out, and the ACT company is one such company that reports annually. They have they call it a profile report, an ACT profile report, that suggests how ready Illinois high school graduates are for college level work. So consistently in the past years that I've seen, it seems like it's always hovering at right around 25% of Illinois high school graduates being ready for college level work. Just 25%. So 1 out of 4 high school graduates in Illinois are measuring, according to this research and the testing, ready for college level work. And so if you think about that, what happens to so many of those people who are not, quote unquote, ready for college level work? Well, they come to college, many of them, right? Many of them do, to open admission schools, to community colleges like Moraine Valley, and they find themselves in developmental ed courses, right? Now, developmental ed courses are not college transfer courses, right? One pays for them, right? But they don't earn you college credit, and often you have to then take those courses if you can't pass the placement test to get into the college transfer courses. The developmental ed program here at Moraine and at institutions across this country is the fastest growing part of higher education, developmental ed, okay? In fact, some estimates put it at a national cost of $3 trillion going into developmental ed. So I guess my question is, what do you think about this kind of investing this much money towards developmental education for students who are not ready for college level work? Keeping in mind too that many will say that earning a college degree is really the gateway to the middle class. If you're not already in the middle class without a college credential, you may never find yourself there. So what do you think? This kind of investment in developmental ed, is it worth it? If you'd like.
So I would just like to comment then on that. Doesn't it seem kind of backwards that they are putting money into underdeveloped, or for the classes for developmental ed after high school, when they're getting you ready for stuff for college? Well, why didn't they do that in high school? So I think if they could just take the money then and make programs before college so that you're ready for college before college, instead of ready for college after high school. It just seems like backwards,
So you're saying the folks who aren't ready, are you kind of raising this question? I mean, you didn't say this, but are you saying how did they get out of high school if they're not ready?
Or even like that, yeah. And then if they need to get ready for college, then they should be getting ready in high school. They shouldn't be getting ready in college for college when you're here already. It just seems like backwards, I don't know.
Yeah. Yes, Sean.
I think that's a good point. When I did my compass testing, I placed in the 095 level for math. And like I said, it's been 17 years since I've been in school, and I've always considered myself to be pretty good at math. I'm good with numbers and everything like that. But when I took that test and they placed me that low, and I have to do development classes just to get to the math where I need to get the degree for what I'm trying to go for right now, it was actually a little heartbreaking. And exactly where he was going with that is that I think this is higher education. This isn't lower education. This should be taught way long ago when you were in high school to junior high. And I'm not sure if anybody else could relate to this, but I do know that when I learned my times table, I think I was in 7th grade. My 7th grade, or right now I have a 12-year-old daughter and a 12-year-old son who are both bringing me algebra problems that I have no idea how to solve, and they're both in 7th grade right now. So I think the standards have changed a little bit now, and the math classes are getting a little bit different. I do know my 12-year-old daughter is in honors math, so she definitely makes me feel dumb. But I do think that I'm not sure. I think some students will need that when they come here, but for $3 trillion, I think that's being invested into that. I think that's quite a bit of money, it sounds like. I think, in just my opinion, I've discussed this a lot in classes, how I felt like I was able to slide through the system through middle school and high school. And I think we're not putting enough pressure on the lower education teachers who are in middle school, high school, even elementary school. They're letting kids get away with bad behavior, and they're letting them just run the show around here sometimes. And I honestly think that that's leading into a lot of problem with the learning disabilities and people coming into college who just aren't ready. And that's because you got a lack of toughness in the lower grades. And I definitely don't think $3 trillion should be being spent at our ages. I think that needs to be going into a lower education, and I think that should be done in high school.
Having said that, though, in fairness, is the program serving you well, though? Because you said you had to take a developmental math, and if it wasn't there for you, where would you be?
Well, what I did is I chose not to take my math class right now. I was a little bit smarter because I'm not going to pay. See, now when we get into that category, we're talking about putting money now. So I got to take 095, 098 just to get to where I need to be. Well, I did find out, because I'm a manipulator, very good at it, may I say, that as long as when I take my compass test, if you take that and you score so low, once you take that class, you sign up for that class, you're stuck. But by not taking that class right away and going and get tutoring by yourself, you're able to take that compass test, again, place higher, and then you don't have to pay for those courses.
So can you not retake the compass?
I can. You're allowed one free retest, which I haven't taken. I'm going to take it the spring of next year, so I can for fall. That way, I'm not. Why am I going to pay for classes that I'm not getting college credits for? Mm-hmm. And if that is the issue, as a community college that I'm already paying you money for, why wouldn't you be willing to help me out a little bit anyways and offer tutoring instead of classes that I'm going to have to pay when I believe they're probably still 3 credit hours, and what we're at about $140 per credit hour, so we're talking about $400. So yeah, I'll keep that money.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay.
Which that's twice, so really $800.
Sure, and what you're saying is certainly something I think that many students who are in developmental ed courses express as frustration. I'm paying this money, I'm dipping into my financial aid bucket, right? And yet it's getting me nowhere in terms of college credit, right?
And I think there's a lot of things that and we're just going to keep going, but there's a lot of things the school lacks on letting you know of when you get here also, and I'm not sure if anybody knows this, but just in case if you didn't know this, I'm going to tell you right now, if you go through your student email, if any of you in this room have paid for Microsoft Office or Microsoft Word, Microsoft Office 365, and you paid for that, you just got ripped off, because your school offers 5 free downloads to 5 free computers through your student email. So they got you on that one because they never told you. So there you go, you know now.
Good. So we're talking about ways that we can be smart to save ourselves or save yourselves money as students, right? Sean, you were talking about a way to recognize how you can attend your own personal development outside of paying tuition so that you can get into those college courses, those transfer courses, knowing that we don't need to buy software, that there's things given to us. And that's true. I hear that a lot, that a lot of students don't know what is available to them. And sometimes that comes at a heavy cost, right? What else? Other comments? Yes, you have a mic? Okay.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So, Sean made a good point in terms of like the standard changing for school. Like, I don't think that the developmental thing should really be a college's problem. It should be like high school's problem, and that just brings up a whole different conversation. But
then from there, we could push it to the family. Right?
yeah,
You know what I mean? It keeps
yeah, you
getting
could
pushed
take that so
back.
many directions.
Whose responsibility is it? You know?
There's like right now there's a system for elementary school students called Common Core, and might I say that's really stupid. So it's basically to teach kids how to do math. Like I saw this on a worksheet. It said, "Can you make 7 and 3? No, like 7 and 4 add up to 10?" And someone put no, and they got marked wrong because they said, yes, you can. You can make 7 as 4 as long as you subtract 1. Well, how does that help you learn what adds up to 10 in reality? Like that's making things unnecessarily complicated. And I really think that the developmental courses shouldn't really be a college's problem. And if it is, it should be a rare problem that they have that they don't really have to deal with, you know?
If we can, I'd like to take that Common Core thread and bounce that over to you guys, because that sounds like, just in terms of, because one of the things I heard you guys say in your presentation was an argument towards what I heard is a standardized curriculum at the college level, a standardized way of teaching. Maybe there's a connection here. You seem to be saying there's some negatives to standardizing how a student should learn something.
Yeah.
How would you respond, or what do you got?
Well, as long as the standards are good, like if everyone's saying that Common Core isn't good, then we shouldn't be teaching Common Core. We were just saying that if everything that's being taught should be the same, not like, well, this should be taught because this way is better. Like they should have a group of people like from the college or somewhere, I don't know. And then like they can come together and decide what works and what doesn't work, and then standardize that for everybody that's the same age or in the same subject.
So maybe we just need to talk about like what is being standardized, the way of teaching, the content, like the assignments, like what is this? What is the same, the standard?
I'm gonna say the assignments and the content and the way they're offered to you. Like I know, for instance, in your class we have the flipped classroom style and we have the online, but like other classes don't have that. So I feel like either we're missing out or they could be missing out on certain things, or some stuff gets lost because they're taught in different styles. Like I know, like every teacher has their own different way of teaching, but I think they can all come together and teach it the same way, if that makes sense.
I think I hear what you're saying. I'm curious to know what people think about how that would work for diverse learners, where everybody learns differently. Then is a single way of teaching or a single whatever part of teaching going to serve all of those diverse learners? Can anybody speak to that?
Yeah, I got this.
You got? Okay.
So I feel like what Ed was trying to get to with his point is that you can teach the same thing. Like every teacher should teach the same thing, even if it's through a different method. Like as long as everyone gets the same point of what they're learning. So like there could be a teacher that really relies a lot on like putting recordings and like having the students listen, and that would really help like audio learners. And then there's like visual learners, and so there would be like a teacher that would prefer to teach through PowerPoints. And I feel like as long as everyone got the same point across, then it wouldn't really matter what they used to teach it, as long as the students learned the same thing. I don't know.
I'm not sure if we're talking about objectives or learning outcomes, because those are standardized. Like, COM 101 learning outcomes, like on the syllabi across campus, it's all the same, right? The objectives, the outcomes, whatever you want to call them, they're all the same. It's how do you get to it is really up to the individual instructor and their academic freedom and their knowledge of their students, the approaches they want to take. But interesting. Maybe others want to jump in on this before we I want to take it in a slightly different direction, see what you think about one more thing that seems pretty contentious, seems to come up all the time. I want to hear what you have to say, and I think it's related to this idea of standardizing something, right? What about the gen ed curriculum, okay? A lot of times when I'm having these conversations with students, they'll express almost a resentment, it seems, for a gen ed curriculum that requires they take certain courses that may not seem immediately applicable to their career path. And yet you have to take those, you have to pay for those, and so on. So can anybody speak to either the pros, the cons, the positives, drawbacks of this general education curriculum?
I can definitely jump in a little bit on that one.
Okay.
Right now, my major for Moraine Valley's, I'm in the addiction studies program, and I'm going for my associates in it, which also gives me the certificate. But in order to get the associates, of course, I have to complete the gen ed classes as well as the 14 required classes from the addiction studies program. And I just did my next semester planning, and I'm taking astrology. So if anybody knows what astrology has to do with addiction, please let me know after the class, because I would love to know.
But you mean astrology or astronomy, first of all?
No, it's astrology.
So like telling our future from the stars?
Yes.
Okay.
I chose it because it just sounded interesting. Okay. And it sounded easy, honestly.
But that one's not required, just something in whatever.
It's in one of the it's in one of the art departments.
Okay.
But it's required.
Not astrology, just something in that area.
It's right. I have a choice to choose from. Right. There is a choice to choose from, but any one of them didn't make any sense to me. I just chose one that sounded easy, and I get to look at night at the stars, I guess. So I'm excited about that a little bit. And also, a good point is where we were just going with is my math. There's some classes like Com 101. I could say, I could see that being in my future in the field I'm choosing, because I'm going to be doing a lot of writing, hopefully. But there's other ones like math that I don't think is going to be as necessary. I don't think I need to know how to get geometry or anything like that to help somebody with the problems. So yeah, I do see a problem in that, but in my opinion, that's a money game. Just like College 101 is a money game. It's how much money can you put in your pockets from me to give me what I want.
And when you say you don't mean me, do you?
No, I'm talking exactly about you. Okay. No, I just think it's a college, and it's a way to get money from people. And I understand it, because this world revolves around money. But I do think there's a waste of time sometimes, and a waste of money. But the College 101 class, it was a complete waste of time. I did help my GPA out, of course, because I think out of 300 points, I got 299. So, hey, good job. But what did I really do? Nothing. I just completed things when it was supposed to be done. I just think a lot of these things are money-based programs. And I do think you need a good knowledge of some of the things. And I think some of them are just a waste of time and money.
Like the gen eds, because today I went to my advising and I don't know what I want to be yet. So like if I didn't know what I wanted to be, I didn't know what classes to take. So taking gen eds is better than not being in school. That's why I like them.
This debate of, go ahead, Ed.
So I want to say that I think, I'm pre-med right now and eventually hope to be a doctor. I think it would make more sense now for me to be specializing in what I want to do and learn about what I want to do, instead of like, I keep hearing, well, you'll learn about that. Oh, you'll learn. Well, why can't I learn now when I'm young? And they say like young learners are the best learners. Well, I should be learning it now so I can really get a grasp on it. And then by the time I'm ready to be a doctor, I'll be really specialized and I can really do the career well, you know what I mean? And like, by the time I can be a doctor, I'll be in like 30s. Well, I should be able to do everything now instead of learning, like Sean said, about math and stuff like that. Like, I don't think like higher level math will help me at all with being a doctor.
This discussion, this debate, I think at the heart of it, about gen ed and all that, I think at the heart of it is really that question, that the first arrow up there, what are the aims of higher education, right? Which is kind of the broad question that we've been kind of struggling with all semester long. And, the dichotomy, of that discussion, on one end we have, and one extreme way to say, well, higher education's job is to serve the workforce, to create better workers, to prepare people for their careers in a very specific, specialized way, whatever that might be, for whatever your career path is. That's on the one end. But on the other sort of end of the spectrum, people will argue that, well, purpose of higher education is to, develop the whole person, to create better citizens. To use some of the words that we heard from in the movie Ivory Tower that you all saw, from the the president of Harvard. When she was talking about the values of a liberal education, she said, well, the goal is not to prepare people merely for a job, but to, quote, help them to learn how to learn, to study across the fields of human inquiry, and to be prepared not just for a job, but to think and reason and question for a lifetime. It seems like on one end we've got these very these ideas of this whole person, enriched individual, in this sort of Maslow's hierarchy kind of thing, versus let's make a really good worker for the job that you're going to have once you're done getting your credential. So we've heard a little bit on this already, but given that framework, what are your thoughts? In terms of the aims of education, where should it fall, or is it individualized?
One thing real quick though, when you were just talking about that, a few weeks ago we had an extra credit chance through all my addiction classes. We had IODAPCA, which is now known as the Illinois Certification Board, who does the certifications for drug counselors and things like that. They came to the school and did a small presentation. And there was one funny thing I found out about that. And when you complete this program through here, or you don't even have to really, you can still apply for the test. But when you do the associate's program here for addiction studies, it waives all of the unpaid training or the internship. There's 2,000 hours you have to do through the state that requires you before you can get your certification to be a counselor. If you complete this program here at the school for an associate's, they waive all of that. Now, if you just do the certification through the school, you still have to do 1,000 hours. Now, what does my gen ed classes have to do with 1,000 hours of working in the field?
Now, your program, though, is it fair to say it's a career program?
It is a career program, yes.
Yeah. So maybe that's the compromise. Like community colleges, they serve career programs through certificates and applied degrees, but they also serve this sort of transfer kind of group of students who plan to go on to maybe a four-year institution. So maybe there's this split here, but they're kind of trying to satisfy both ideas about the aims of education. Others on this quickly? Anybody else? No, you are standing between me and Thanksgiving weekend. Is that what's happening? I understand. We are about out of time, but these are big questions, not easily answered in our session today, but I think we chipped away at it a little bit, and it was good to hear from everybody. Congratulations again on an awesome job. Have a great long weekend, and look for this video coming to you soon. All right.